Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. My name's Bill Natter. For those of you who don't know me, Karen, I just got an email that you're coming. You're from Deloitte and Touche, I see. Maybe I need a new service provider, right? So I'm Bill Natter. I'm a member of the board at the Council for National Security Affairs, or what we call CENSA. And Robert Tomes, we have other members of CENSA, and Robert Tomes is a member of the board, and we have other members here as well. I know 80% of the folks in here because they're regulars, and those of you who are new, I hope you come back. We believe ourselves to be a unique organization of mid-career professionals that are as in tune with practice and the practitioner art of public policy as they are in the academic, as in the academics and the policy-making side. Those in the ivory towers that think about great ideas, but then the great ideas in practice don't necessarily work out so well. And the organization's been together for well over a decade. Dave Buffalo here has been with the organization for a number of years. I have been, Robert has been. And we fancy ourselves as very unique and fortunate when we have speakers like yourself, Ambassador. So thank you for taking the time. We also like to be very informal. As you can see, this is an intimate setting, less than 20 folks. You have representatives here that have individuals that have served in the Department of Defense, on the National Security Council staff, on the 9/11 Commission. They are in the Army. We have former Navy here, current Navy reservists, Marine Corps contingent as well, State Department, and consultants, business leaders, and academics, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, Hill staffers, exactly, that's right. Me being one, and former Air Force. Okay, didn't think. So we're a purple group. Wish I had worn my purple tie. Speaking to you all, we all at some point in our lives have these moments when we experience them, we become a little less cynical and a little less pessimistic and a little less jaded about the world in which we live. And I have experienced such a moment in the last 3 days. Spending time with this ambassador and watching him meet congressmen and staff up on Capitol Hill, and just getting a sense of who he is as a person reminds me of why I've chosen the profession I've chosen, and inspires me to continue, even though it's not easy, especially on the financial side when you're a government employee and we're watching the debates on CNN. Senate passed it, thank goodness. But there'll be another fight in another 12 years, at least, or if not sooner. It happens just about every decade. It happened in the Reagan years. It happened during the Clinton years. Now it's happening in the Obama years. The ambassador has been brought over by Scott Jacobs, who's over in the corner here, president of New Century, United States, NCUS, and the company trains Afghan Army, National Police. And that's not why we're here. That's just a sidebar to let you understand context. And Scott met Ambassador Masoud, former ambassador to the United Kingdom. Prior to 9/11, he was special envoy from the Northern Alliance in Afghanistan. His brother was the head of Northern Alliance, and he was stationed in London. And as all historians know, tragically his brother was lost on the 9th of September to Al-Qaeda affiliates posing as reporters. The ambassador knows full well the consequences of believing in something and believing in a cause. His family's paid dearly, and yet, after all these years, he continues to pursue his vision of what he thinks is right. He's been asked 3 times by President Karzai to be Karzai's vice president, and he's declined. This is while he was the ambassador to the UK. Karzai appointed him. So technically he was a part of the administration, but he declined that offer. Since then, he's turned into the opposition in Afghanistan, and most recently he has embarked on a grassroots, I would call a grassroots effort to build consensus in Afghanistan with business leaders and community leaders and religious leaders and government, local tribes and in all regions of the country, the south, the east, the north. And it's been inspiring to watch him tell the congressional leaders about this over the last 3 days. So we're fortunate that he's come here tonight, and we've asked him to share with us that vision and his effort over the past several months. And while he's pursuing this, the presidential campaign is gearing up over in Afghanistan, and who knows, perhaps in a few months when they come together and they have a platform and some recommendations on what to do in Afghanistan, 1 or 2 or 3 presidential candidates may borrow or embrace the platform, and who knows what that will lead your country to, sir. So I've said enough. Thank you again for coming, and if I can just... Are
we on the record or off the record here?
The ambassador has agreed to have this filmed, and so without further ado, if you all would join me in welcoming Ambassador Masoud. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I should thank all of you here, especially Mrs. Scott, who enabled me to come to the United States and to see very good people here during the past few days. I've been very pleased to meet them, to see them. And it really gave me a good idea what it's all about, what the Americans are thinking about Afghanistan. For me, that was a mystery. When I was in Afghanistan, when I heard this sort of conflicting reports or conflicting, sometimes contradictory positions of Americans, I thought that maybe they have got a super plan for the whole region. We don't know. Well, we are their friends, so they will keep us in a safe side anyway. I really thought, not only me, many people in Afghanistan are thinking that way, that the Americans have got really super plan. Since I came here for the past 4 days, I realized that, well, I was looking for a super plan, but there was not even a very clear plan for Afghanistan. And I was somehow disappointed why a great power who have invested so much in Afghanistan, so much blood they have given, so many young people have been sacrificed, and they are thinking completely different what we expected in Afghanistan. We thought that, well, tomorrow we will stand on our own feet, and that will be very soon, and we'll be very proud that, well, the United States of America have helped Afghanistan. But in any case, since I am here, I can see, yes, there are some different perceptions. The ordinary people probably which are being influenced by some media reports, they are somehow disappointed about Afghanistan. And I can see the congressmen, they want to find out what's happening there. Sometimes they listen to the administration, Sometimes they themselves want to find out, but they are preoccupied with their own constituencies, so therefore they don't have much time to get to know what's happening in Afghanistan. And that has been a good opportunity for me to come here and see and talk. And I hope to continue this sort of talking and dialogue with the Americans here. I'm pretty sure that when I go back to Afghanistan, one of the things I would do there is that to meet as many Americans as possible there in Afghanistan, to talk to them what's happening there. Well, about Afghanistan, let me say that for the past few days that I've been talking, let's take it from there. What we have got in front of us. We have got in 6 months' time an election, upcoming election in Afghanistan. We have got about 30 candidates. 30 candidates means that the situation is good, that so many people came and want to be president of Afghanistan. You can see that there is now, we have got parliament, we have got commission, we have got free media, we have got almost 30, 40 channels of television, and we have got 120 newspaper and daily paper we have got there. We have got about 200 radios. We have got so much, and that's all your help for Afghanistan. 12 years back and 12 years now, it's a big, big difference. The difference is day and night. So much difference have made. Now, as we go towards election, and the election, as I mentioned, we have got 30 candidates here that they are the moment preparing to compete with each other. But at the same time, that election upcoming is very important for us, so crucial, because what happened the past 4 elections that we had, 2 parliamentary, 2 presidential, there was an international community. The Americans were there. They said, look, we want to make sure that everything is okay. But the upcoming election, that will be the Afghans themselves. They have to determine their own future alone. Not only this time after 12 years, but throughout the history of Afghanistan, we never had the election, only 12 years. So our democratic institution is quite new. So this is the first time that the Afghans themselves will go to the poll and they will determine their own future. The Americans say, well, we don't have nothing to do with the election. You have to do it yourself. But still, we have been asking for the past 4 days. The least you can do, just make sure that there is an election, a proper one, with the result of the election will be accepted by the people of Afghanistan. At the result of the election, we will witness a legitimate, responsible government in Afghanistan. That would be good for Afghanistan. Hopefully, as we go through this transition period, now to 2014 election, if we pass it successfully, that will be a new chapter for Afghanistan, a new milestone for Afghanistan. And there are some threats, of course, there. For example, President Karzai, who is the president of Afghanistan, who wants to supervise election himself, he's been reputed of fraudulence anyway in the past elections. So once again, he has got the independent commission with himself, and he has put the infrastructure for some extensive fraudulence once again. But we know that is happening. But at the same time, we are hopeful that we will have a successful election. A few months back, we were not sure whether President Karzai wanted that election to happen or not, because he was talking about the traditional way jirga, about some sort of jirga. Maybe he was thinking about how to keep the power for another while. And he was saying that, well, Afghanistan is not ready at the moment. But we said, look, President Karzai, it's a red line. Election is election. Once you stop it, then the whole democratic process will stop in Afghanistan. That's the biggest achievement we have got. We do not want that one to be stopped. Now we are going. But ahead of us, 2014, we have got at least 4 big challenges. The political challenges, the economic challenges, security challenges, and social challenges. What is the political challenges? Can we do a successful transition of the power to a new leadership? Can we do a good election in Afghanistan? Security challenges, whether our security personnel will be able to take the security of the election as well as to defend the government which will be the result of the election in the future. We have got economic challenges. As the international community leaves Afghanistan in 2014, then of course, that aid which were coming to Afghanistan, that will diminish considerably. Do you have a substitute economy, a healthy substitute economy to replace that economy, or a threat is coming from drug economy, whether that will be the substitute for that one. Then we have got the social challenges as well. The biggest challenge we have got is that the women's rights in Afghanistan. That's one of the biggest achievements in Afghanistan. Women, which makes more than half of the population, for the past 12 years, they have got some of their rights back. And there is realization amongst the women. We have got over 60 women representing Afghanistan in the parliament. We have got some women's institution there. So the women, many of, especially in the cities, they are not obliged anymore to say that, well, we only work there and we are made to work at home. So they are coming out, they're working. So their right is very, very important because their contribution for the country is very, very important. So that's another social challenge. Can we keep that one intact? What about 2014? If something goes wrong, the first one who will lose, it will be the women of Afghanistan, especially in traditional society like Afghanistan. Then of course, there are people who are worried about the election. Well, what will happen? The Americans are leaving Afghanistan, and who will supervise that election? Who will make sure that we will have a good government? That sort of insecurity, sort of worries that's there. So that is a social challenge itself. So now, 4 challenges as briefly I went. 1, 2, 3, 4. What can we do for that one? So we cannot only say that, well, there are 30 candidates, they're competing, whoever wins, he will be the president of Afghanistan, the others will automatically accept it. That is not on there. That's Afghanistan. We know that one. Still, we have not reached, our culture have not reached that stage to say everything goes perfectly well. So therefore, what we can do, now it comes to our work, Mel said so rightly. What we have been trying to do for the past 2 years, we have worked out an agenda for Afghanistan called the National Agenda for Afghanistan. It is like a roadmap for Afghanistan. It is how exactly we can get these leaders of Afghanistan, the political activists, business community, the scholars, the religious people, how exactly we can get them to come around a national agenda and reach some sort of consensus, and then out of that consensus to draw a vision for the future of the country. So the main thing is that if we can get these candidates as well to come to that sort of consensus and come there, so we can change the 2014 election to an opportunity to save the country. Not just competing, but to an opportunity to save the country. How exactly we can save the country? What we are saying that if the leaders of Afghanistan can get together, if those candidates are committed and they announce their commitment to the people of Afghanistan and to those who have come to that consensus, that as we go and after the election, if I succeed, I will call upon all the forces in Afghanistan to come to a unity government there. So it means that you can give the assurance to other political parties and personalities and different other institutions that you will be part of the process after the election. We cannot exclude the others. We cannot say that, well, I have won, you have lost, I'm the king, you are the followers. That doesn't happen in Afghanistan. It's still, that's early in Afghanistan. So that's why we're working on that sort of consensus in the framework of national agenda, how the leaders of Afghanistan can reach that consensus. So the national agenda is for a long term in Afghanistan. It's like starting a nation-state building. It will take years, it will take time by the time we reach that we all feel together that we are one nation there. Every country have passed that stages, so Afghanistan have to pass as well that stage to reach that. But in the immediate term, as the election is coming, we really have to hammer out and work out how exactly we can get in the framework of national agenda and the framework of a unity government so everybody can be part of the decision-making process in Afghanistan. That's our agenda, our program. Now, these are challenges, and that is our agenda for immediate term. And we hope that what happened, what taught us our history, for the past 300 years, since the name became Afghanistan, most of our history has been constituted to sort of inter-elite rivalry in Afghanistan. So the elites of Afghanistan, whether they were from one tribe, one ethnic, or one, they all the time they were quarreling and making argument and fighting with each other for the power. And that have been continued until even now. So what we are trying to do through the national agenda, how to change that inter-elite rivalry to a sort of elite consolidation. So how we can get the elites of Afghanistan. When I say elite, it does not mean that some people higher up. When I say elite in Afghanistan, that refers to activists, the leader, the social community, all of these people who have got some sort of influence in Afghanistan. So how exactly we can change that inter-elite rivalry to elite consolidation in Afghanistan in order to have a vision for the country together. That's our job. We have to do it. Maybe some people say that, look, Afghanistan, it's not possible to do that one because throughout the history of Afghanistan, they have fought with each other. Yes, they have fought. But for the past 12 years, there is a huge realization. We don't have any more choice. We don't have these sort of choices that, well, this 1 second, what do you choose? Either we all win or we all lose. So therefore, there is a common realization amongst these so-called elites of Afghanistan that we have to come together. Now, since I have started my work, I have written that national agenda into 100 pages. The stage one is that to start a dialogue or inter-Afghan dialogue amongst the Afghan. Stage two, to work out a common vision for the country based on the national priority for Afghanistan. Stage three, those who have worked out that common vision, they can start a confidence building process amongst themselves. Stage four, let's work out a unity government so we can all be part of the process. And stage five, let's work out a political reform. Now, the history, as I mentioned at the beginning, the rivalry of these elites. The fifth stage of our plan is that political reform. Why there was rivalry? Because there was only one position of power, and that was either the king. So the king had everything. So then the rest were somehow fighting for that one. We have got a proverb, at least two proverbs in Afghanistan. That's very common there. They say that you are ark, you are mar. Either you go to the palace or you die. So there was no third place. Now we have to really create that third place. We have to make a political reform. We have to say, look, you don't have to die. If you don't get there, you can go second, third, fourth, fifth. So somehow we have to do that sort of political reform so everybody can find a space for himself there. Because Afghanistan is multi-ethnic. We have to do that one. We have got Tajik, Uzbek, Hazara, Pashtun, Baluch, Aimaq, Nuristani, so many of them. So everybody wants to be part of the process there. So therefore, political reform is a must question. Because if I say one word, the biggest problem in Afghanistan throughout the history have been that the mystery of power have not been solved in that country. So the fight is around that power. So we have to solve that one for good and forever. So this is the time to solve it. Now, maybe one said that, look, we are going to do it, that sort of reform, that the way I like it. Yes, you like it that way. One said that, well, should we have a parliamentary system? The other one will say that, well, what about this federation? The third one will say, what about the kingdom? We'll have a monarchy. Your ideas are being respected. But what we are suggesting through the national agenda, first, let's come to a unity government. All of us, we feel that we are part of the process. Then we can decide collectively the future roadmap and what sort of reform we need. So we have to do everything together because in a multi-ethnic society like Afghanistan, if one does, even if it's logical, it's good, but the others will not accept it. So that is why I've been working to that national agenda. I'm going from one province to another province, getting those influential and these intellectuals and the society leader, the political leader in that province together and talking about the national agenda, getting their idea to make that national agenda richer and identify who is who in that province. From that I finish, I go to another, to another. So quite a few provinces I've already traveled, but as soon as I go, I'll complete that circle of Afghanistan. Then in 2 months' time, we will have a national conference in Afghanistan in which a representative of the provinces will be there, people from the parliament, the politician, and the candidates, all of them, they will be there. And there, we will have to announce a national agenda for the future of the country, but in an immediate term, to say that we are all for establishing a unity government in the aftermath of 2014 election. I think I've talked a lot. I'm sorry to bore you, but that's all I can say. Thank you.
Okay, so he's agreed to do some questions and answer some questions. One question I have for clarification: when you talk about it, a unity government, you're talking about a government that represents all the different ethnic groups, and it sounds as if you're also talking about constitutional reform. So the type of government. Am I correct in that?
Well, let me say something about the unity government, as you put it rightly. Unity government in countries which are that they're being established, the countries which have been into crisis, whether it's a war or some other crisis, like what happened in Greece, what happens in Lebanon, what happened in South Africa, even in Britain, it's semi-unity government. We have got two parties. So, in a situation of crisis, definitely it's needed in Afghanistan. Definitely it's needed in Afghanistan. Because we have got political problem, we have got economic problem, we have got ethnicity, all of that problem. So therefore, we really have to come together and make the unity government. Now, the type of unity government that differs from presidential to the parliamentary system. In the parliamentary system, based on your delegates in the parliament, you will be given the share of executive in the government. But in the presidential system, the president call upon these national forces to come and be part of the decision-making body there. Now, what the president can do, president said, well, I'm the president of Afghanistan. This is the situation. I cannot do it myself alone. I call upon the national forces to come together, and then beside the president, there will be sort of presidential institution, so they can bring that decision-making body there based on the priority, what's important for Afghanistan. For example, peace is important for Afghanistan, political reform is important, security is important, foreign relations, economy, all of them, they are important. Based on those priorities, so the leaders can get together and make the decision collectively there. So that is really what I mean by the unity government. Now, I just want to say one more thing is that it's in Bonn. And Bonn, the international community called upon the Afghan leader, whether they were ethnic or political leader, to come to Bonn. And they said the international community pressurized them to make one government and go to Afghanistan back and make a national government. Now, it did not work after 12 years. Why it did not work? There are certain problem there was. The first problem, the head of the interim government, Mr. Karzai, he was not so able to really lead that one, to somehow implement the Bonn Agreement. The second, the Afghan leaders' mentality was very traditional, but the structure which they were adopted, that was new. So there was a clash between the mentality of the Afghan leader and the new structure that was clashed. The third, well, I don't know whether should I say it here. May I just say it very honestly, that if only the United States of America supervised seriously the whole Bonn process from day one to today, the situation would have been quite different. What happened? Karzai misused that sort of opportunity, took that one, and somehow gave a lip service to the American and did his own. So therefore, the Bonn process derailed. Now, whatever happened, based on our experience of the past 12 years, we, the leaders of Afghanistan, once again we have to go on to make that unity government. As soon as we make that unity government, the priority will be to make a political reform, based on that reform, one more step forward, we can make a full national government in Afghanistan, in which every ethnic of Afghanistan can see themselves in that process.
Thank you. I'm not going to act as intermediary here, but I'm giving you a warning. My sense is, based on the consistency and the makeup of the crowd, you're going to have a lot of questions about security and the current security situation in Afghanistan, as opposed to your vision for political reform and constitutional reform. Just a warning. But so I'll let you raise your hands to have questions. I'll let you moderate yourself.
Thank you. Robert Thompson with CENSA and VAE. You touched on it quite a bit, but it's always this issue of center versus periphery, and power in the center versus power in the periphery, and how you unify across Afghanistan. So I'm wondering, VAE, you touched on it quite a bit, but it's always this issue of center versus periphery, and power in the center versus power in the periphery, and how you unify across Afghanistan. So I'm wondering, in your view, in terms of time, because you said it will take a long time to get the unity government to work and to function, as you're forming the unity government and getting the cooperation or the buy-in from provinces and power centers there, what do you see as both the challenges and the opportunities to make the unity process work in terms of the initial things that everybody wants you to do, foreign relations and security, versus those things that initially they'll say, yes, I'll agree to that, but I get to run the schools in my province, or I get to deal with smuggling and border control in my province, or I get to deal with religious rights, or, right? And so how do you balance that process and setting expectations on how the center and periphery kind of relations will evolve over time?
Thank you. Thank you. In Afghanistan, I'm sure that maybe in many other parts of the world would be the same, that when we talk about this peace, for example, to bring security, security now mainly, apart from that military dimension of security, it really, in Afghanistan, it depends on so many other things which I may call it soft power, like identity, like legitimacy, like the right of things. These are so important, it's getting so important in Afghanistan, especially that when you go to Afghanistan and you see the people, you talk to them, and you will say, what about the security of, I said, okay, I don't have no problem like that. I can take care of my valley or village or my home like that. But unfortunately, I'm the second citizen here. I cannot do it like that. There's some sort of, the feeling is that people are not somehow still in that sort of thing that, well, we are all equal. Sometimes they have got some sort of feeling that this ethnic or that Pashtun, Tajik, Uzbek, Hazara, like that. Now, if only we can get that one solved, it means that the identity of these people are very important. Legitimacy of the government is very important. All of them, they are very important. Now, if we do that one, I'm pretty sure that that will help security in Afghanistan a lot. Right? Now, the military dimension comes next. Let me just give an example. When we were during the resistance against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Pakistan, some Pakistani groupings, they were inside Afghanistan from 1996 onward. And they were there in Afghanistan. Although the Taliban were able to capture a major part of Afghanistan, almost 90% of the territory, but still they were afraid of that 10%. Why? because the Taliban could not rule the hearts and minds of the people of Afghanistan. Although they had all military-wise, they were okay that they captured, but they did not bring security. We get that one, we can get this one. For example, we have got a peace council. That peace council which is talking with Taliban, and it has for the past years and years, it has not really kind of got anywhere. Why it has not gone anywhere? Because the peace council is not a national peace council. So you do not see the people of Afghanistan participating in that one. The women of Afghanistan who are the foes of the Taliban, they are not there. The old resistance forces, they are not there. The civil society, they are not there. Those who believe in the same value, they are not there. So therefore, it does not work there. So I don't know. I think that maybe I have gone a bit that way. I believe that unity government, when I'm talking, or the political reform I'm talking, this is the priority for Afghanistan. If we get that one done, we can get the rest done as well. A few years ago, there was some Hazara and some Pashtun, we were all there. And Mr. Karzai's brother, Qayyum Karzai, he was talking about that, well, we can get that project and this project done. Later on, that young Hazara, he stood up. He said, Mr. Karzai, I believe that as soon as you tell me that we are equal brothers, then you don't have to worry about the rest. We can do it ourselves. That's very important in Afghanistan. Very, very important in Afghanistan. So it is, I don't know, it has been in the history of, throughout the history of Afghanistan, that has been a sort of potential, which later on it just burst and brought so much crisis for the past 4 decades in Afghanistan. So we really have to heal that one. If we heal that one, we can heal the rest.
Interested to know your thoughts on moving forward, any consideration to redrawing the provincial boundaries of Afghanistan to more closely reflect the ethnic regions that you want to draw upon to reach the consensus. Any consideration to redrawing the provincial boundaries of Afghanistan to more closely reflect the ethnic regions that you want to draw upon to reach the consensus, to reflect political boundary reflecting the ethnic groups that occupy a particular territory. Looking at Afghanistan's history, of remembering that the political boundaries that were drawn, the ones that we use today, were actually not that old in terms of the history of Afghanistan over the last 300 years in terms of being a unified state. So I'm interested to know your thoughts about moving forward, how to better reflect the ethnic diversity of Afghanistan.
Are we talking about the international boundaries?
The internal boundaries, the provincial boundaries between Logar or Ghazni or...
Well, again, somehow that has been the problem. Let me give an example. For example, in Kandahar, probably about 50 years ago, Kandahar city was mainly Tajik-dominated province. But later on, the Pashtun came and slowly the Tajik disappeared. Or one of our ethnic section has been Hindu. So Hindu is part of Afghanistan. Not that they came from India. They were part of Afghanistan, like Baluch, Pashtun, Tajik. Hindu also was part of Afghanistan. Mainly they were staying in Nangarhar in the south of the country. But later on, some Pashtun came and they were somehow disappeared there as well. Not only that, we have got 2 big tribes of Pashtun. One is Drani, one is Khaljay. So Khaljay, which is living in the east of the country, mainly in Kunar, Nangarhar. So Khaljay is called Pashtun as well, but in fact, they are not originally Pashtun. They are Turk, but slowly they became Pashtun there. But then Drani in the south, they are Pashtun. these problems have existed in Afghanistan, but the rest you can find Pashtun. In the north of the country, you can find Pashtun and Tajik and all of that. There were some thoughts before that if we have a sort of a system, a sort of federal system, so we can have 9 zones in Afghanistan. Based on the zone, then we can have the sort of provisional council, and then they can have their own power there. There was something. And traditionally that was still, we said some people call it Mashriqi, Junubi, Shamali. Still there were 7 zones like that, although they did not have a sort of boundaries, very clear boundaries. But that's not a kind of not a problem. The problem which still exists is that one ethnic says that we have ruled Afghanistan for 300 years. And the others say that, well, when Russia invaded Afghanistan, we were the people who defended the country. And then, when the new era came, Karzai wanted to go back to the old code. So that, well, we should rule the country. The rest do not accept it. Said, no, you don't rule the country. We defended the country, so you don't rule the country. So there's sort of a struggle between those who want to take back Afghanistan to the old centuries with the old code of politics, and there are people who believe in the new values, in democracy, men's rights, human's rights, women's rights. So in the south of the country, where the Taliban are strong, probably, or their ideology is strong, so mainly even the southern people, they more or less, they have got the same sort of mentality, culture. But then in the rest of the country, you can see completely different things, different picture like that. So there is a fight going on between different culture, different mentality, rather than boundary itself.
Sir, kind of going on your topic there of the federal system. I mean, it seems like decentralized power has been the history of Afghanistan generally. But you seem to be very much arguing for a centralized power structure. My question is, what would be wrong with having a decentralized, a more federal system? Because theoretically, in that system, you could still protect all those rights. It's been the history of Afghanistan generally. But you seem to be very much arguing for a centralized power structure. My question is, what would be wrong with having a decentralized, a more federal system? Because theoretically, in that system, you could still protect all of those rights, but by province, and you would have less to fight over the central government, a little bit better, closer control. So, but is there a problem, or is there a reason why we should not try to do a decentralized government with a less powerful center?
That's not a problem at all. And in fact, let me say that I say it should change. What I'm trying to say is this: it should not be me to determine what sort of change, or it should not be a Pashtun who determine what sort of change. Let's get together in a unity government. Decide there together, because if I say that system, somebody else will not accept it. So therefore, let's get together. Now, I just want to come to that. What sort of system? I mean, one is that we get together. One is that my view. What sort of? That's just a view. It's not that somebody has to do it. The view. Political reform, I have put in the national agenda that how exactly the political reform. When we talk about this decentralization is CENSA. We do have the constitution of the country, and that constitution, as far as the power is concerned, there. We have got this provisional council, we have got the president, we have got the parliament, we have got judiciary, we have got all of that. But most part of our constitution is still, after 12 years, deliberately have not been implemented. For example, in our constitution, we have got the mayor to be elected, but no mayor have been elected. That's the degree by the president who appoint the mayor. In our constitution, it says that the district council have to be elected, and that district council that be part of the bigger Loya Jirga, and Loya Jirga should be convened in Afghanistan, and Loya Jirga should be established as the highest decision-making body to make the biggest decision, national decision, that body. But it's still, after 12 years, deliberately, that district election has not taken place in order to complete that Loya Jirga, and Loya Jirga can be the highest decision maker. Because Mr. Karzai believes in the same old code, I am the king, I have to make the decision. For example, the provincial council we have got is still that power and authority of provincial council have not been given to them. What exactly has not been defined there? Not only in that, what about the parliament? The parliament always have been influenced by the president, by some minister, in a very corrupt way, giving the money for delegates here and there. Judiciary have been appointed by Mr. Karzai. It's almost 2 years that the head of the judiciary time is over, but Mr. Karzai has kept him there in order to do. So there are certain things in our constitution which have not been implemented. This is the first step. Then the second step is that, well, let's see how exactly we can make a bit more decentralized. Should we start that decentralization from the provinces or from the center? In fact, what we believe that even if we want a strong government in the center, we really have to bring the power of the government from the provinces to the center, not anymore from the center to the provinces. It did not work. Now, much of the fight, what you see in the south of the country in the name of Taliban, that's not all Taliban. That's because of the corrupt governor who have been appointed by the center and the people do not accept. So that is why the Taliban want to just put their own names as well. We did not such thing like that. So yes, I do agree with you. There's no problem with decentralization. But decentralization with the consensus of the leaders of Afghanistan. We cannot do it without their consensus. Because if we do it, then the ethnicity problem arises that, well, look at these non-Pashtun and Pashtun and Tajik Uzbek they are doing. I think that one of the best things which we can do in order to reform the political system there, to go for some sort of decentralization accepted by all, but at the same time, we should not look at these non-Pashtun and Pashtun and Tajik Uzbek they are doing. I think that one of the best things which we can do in order to reform the political system there, to go for some sort of decentralization accepted by all, but at the same time, we should not lose the sight of the provinces. We really somehow to get the connection of the province to the center. For example, if we go and if we give the right to the provincial council that you can elect the governor, then the center should have the authority to say, yes, I do. But if the center do not endorse that governor, then the provincial council can nominate somebody else as the governor, or vice versa. The center.
Strategies do you have for including young people and women in this unity government, which together particularly make up a substantial part of the Afghan population and aren't committed to the old guard and the old way of doing things? And on the other side of that question, how do you incent them into public service when, other than stature and corruption, there's really no, and altruism, there's really no incentive to serve in the Afghan government when they can make more money in the private sector?
Well, the woman and the younger generation, they are two important components of our vision in Afghanistan. Why they are so important? First, as I mentioned, that 70% of our population, they are young men and women under 30. And more than 50% of the population, they are women. So it means that they are making two big components of our society. Unfortunately, this government have not addressed these two components. So somehow they have done it just superficially. Well, the woman can have this one, but they don't believe it. We know that they don't believe it. I mean, if they don't believe in man's right there in that country, and as I mentioned all again and again that Mr. Karzai wants to go to that old code, of course they don't believe in women. I mean, we have got the president in this 21st century. Well, he should be the example for all of us to bring his own wife that, well, this is my wife, his name is this one, and this is me, I'm the president, and this is my wife. But he doesn't do it because he doesn't believe it, therefore. So there are much of the things he does not believe like that. For example, political parties. He doesn't believe in political parties. He went to the European Commission, and I was there, and he was saying to the European Commissioner and Brussels, he said, I don't know, why do you have so many political parties? Why do you believe in political parties? That will not do you good. So he was advising political parties. He went to the European Commission, and I was there, and he was saying to the European Commissioner and Brussels, he said, I don't know, why do you have so many political parties? Why do you believe in political parties? That will not do you good. So he was advising the Europeans that the political parties will not do you well. So he doesn't believe. He really believes in the old code. So that is one of the reasons why these two big companies have not been added. But we believe that one. And I think that
What's
the agenda that...
strategy for including it?
Pardon?
What's the strategy of this unity government for including those two contingents?
Of the government.
What's your strategy
Ah.
promoting this unity government for including young people and
Well.
women because they are so substantial part of the population and they are so important going forward? So what's a strategy to include them?
Well, let me come to that. This year, for example, what we have done, we have put this, as I said, these two components, women and younger generation, in our agenda. We have got, for the past 1 year, we have got thousands of younger people who are promoting our agenda in Afghanistan across the country, and they believe in that one. They believe that that's a new program, a new roadmap for Afghanistan, which they all believe. And every day, to that number, we can see more and more young people are coming there. The women of Afghanistan, we had a conference this year. About 500 women came to our program. And we wanted to have their view, what exactly they think about our agenda, our program. And eventually we reached that conclusion that, like the men, the woman should have a national jirga. It means that a national council of the women in Afghanistan. So we set up the first woman jirga in Kabul. And we would like to expand that jirga to different provinces. In every province, the women should have their own council. Don't forget that the women of Afghanistan, the biggest problem they have got there, and I've been talking to them again and again and again. I've been trying to look, you really have to make your own association in order to defend your own right. We are all with you. But it seems that somehow it doesn't work. The most I could do to get 500 of them together to say, look, you have to establish your first council, then we can expand it. The same way as I mentioned that we have to bring consensus among different leaders of Afghanistan. This is totally another job, to bring consensus amongst the women of Afghanistan for the very right and good cause of their own. So therefore, what we envisage for the future of Afghanistan, we said the leaders of Afghanistan today, some of them they are good, some of them they are not. But one cannot pin their hope to the present political leaders of Afghanistan, whether it's in the government or the opposition, because most of them they are from the past generation. You cannot pin your hope. You cannot expect them to change everything. Maybe they change somehow, they come to some sort of compromises, but they cannot change everything. So we are pinning our hope for this younger generation to make the leadership, and the women of Afghanistan as the new political entities to determine the future.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador, this last week we saw the governor of Logar province killed. We've seen a lot of the leaders, key leadership in Afghanistan over the last number of years. General Dawood, the Peace Commissioner Rabbani, and others. Seems like there's been this systematic campaign by the Taliban to kill key leaders. What do you see as steps that could be undertaken? Is General Dawood, the Peace Commissioner Rabbani, and others. Seems like there's been this systematic campaign by the Taliban to kill key leaders. What do you see as steps that could be undertaken today to provide security for leaders, not just government leaders, but leaders in the provinces, business, the military, and elsewhere? And then how does Afghanistan, after this next election, heal so they can truly come together?
I do agree with you that so many leaders have been killed, and they know exactly who to kill. Those who are active in the field, who can defend the Afghan territory, they target these people. Daoud, Said Khili, Engineer Omar, so many of them. About 3 years ago, I wrote an article in one of the newspapers there. I said the fifth column is inside the government of Mr. Karzai. And looking back, I was right that there was fifth column because the Taliban themselves, they cannot do it alone because they are the hardcore leader. They have survived so long, so many battles, so they cannot be easily killed by this Taliban, small Taliban, unless there's another force. So what is other force? We do have the fifth column inside the government of Mr. Karzai, which is connected to outside, especially to those intelligence service outside the ISI. So the ISI want to make sure that those leaders have been omitted from the scene, is gone. Because tomorrow when the international community, according to the ISI calculation, when they go, so there is no resistance to do such thing. And even the family of Daoud sometimes claim, and the family of Dr. Kazemi claimed, so many other leaders claimed that that was the government of Mr. Karzai, but the government of Mr. Karzai did not give no attention to them at all, like that. Now, what can be done? Much hope is there to see the change of leadership in 2014. As soon as that happens, I think that the situation will improve enormously, enormously. Now, at least the fifth column will not be there. And it's not something like very hidden that we don't know. We even know who are in that fifth column, who are working close to the president, as very close advisor, associate, and all of them were working with the president. For example, Rabbani was killed. Who sent this suicide bomber to Rabbani? Mr. Karzai calls from outside and tells Rabbani, who's in Dubai, to go to Afghanistan quickly, meet a very important Taliban leader for peace. And Rabbani leaves everything based on the instruction of President Karzai, goes to Kabul, arrived 3 o'clock in the airport, and 4:30 he arrives at home. 5 o'clock he gets ready to meet this leader of Taliban. The leader of Taliban, who was in the guest house of President Karzai, he gets ready that he is ready to die. So he's completely ready. He comes there, goes, and he shakes hands with Rabbani, bomb, and gone. So that is the president of the country advising the former president, Rabbani, who was the head of the Peace Council, to meet. And he's meeting, he's gone. Now, whether it's a negligence or whatever you call it, I don't know how to judge that. So the fifth column is there. Who told Karzai to send these people there? So there must be somebody who told Karzai. Or did Karzai himself did it? Or there are so many questions like that. So that is why there are media in Afghanistan, which is so powerful. And every day they are repeating that one. There's a fifth column, and Mr. Karzai is the president is responsible. He cannot protect that one. I hope that in 2014 we can have a new leadership. We can change the whole pattern. Yes, sir.
What do you make of the opening of the Taliban office in Qatar?
Of whom, sir?
June, Taliban in Qatar in June, and the prospects of some sort of peace negotiations. You talk a lot about unity government, the future of a unity government. What role do these negotiations with the Taliban play in the future of
What role of negotiation? For whom?
with the Taliban?
Ah, all right, sorry. Well, when you talk to the Taliban, when you want to talk peace with Taliban, you have to talk from the position of a strength, not from the position of weakness. Why that process did not yield any result? Because the government is weak, is fragile. If I'm Talib, I say, look, for 17 years, I have resisted all the onslaught of the international community for the past 10 years, 12 years. So therefore, I'm not going to give up 6 months' time to this fragile government and corrupt government of Mr. Karzai. Why should I give up? I'm victorious. I'm claiming victory, especially when they hear that the international community in the United States is leaving Afghanistan. So therefore, they feel victory that they are there. So that's why it does not work. There are many reasons why it does not work. Like, when I say that the position of strength, when we say that let's reach consensus amongst different Afghan leaders, let's reach to a sort of consensus so we can establish a national government in Afghanistan. Let's have a vision for the country. Let's feel that we are together, those who believe in the same cause and the same value in democracy, human rights, men's rights, and the whole thing. Let's reach a sort of consensus. This is our country. We have to save it. Then it means that we are reaching the position of strength, even when we form the government. So that will be the government of national unity. Then we can propose to the Taliban, look, you're coming or not? You want to talk or not? So that will make it much easier. So that will put the Taliban to the corner. But so long as that's fragile, every Afghan leader have got their own personal agenda based on the ethnicity, on the ideology, on this interest, and all of that. So of course, the Taliban said that I am much better force than these folks who are so fragmented like that. So, as far as the Taliban is concerned, get the position of strength there, then talk to the Taliban. It will work.
Can I ask you one more question? Separately, what happened with Abdullah? There was this major break with President Karzai. It seemed to be an interesting dynamic in the last go around in the elections. What do you think the process?
What happened with Abdullah? There was this major break with President Karzai. It seemed to be an interesting dynamic in the last go around in the elections. What do you think the prospects of Abdullah's electoral chances are in the future? What's his future?
Karzai's future?
Abdullah.
Abdullah. Well, I was just talking before that 2008, the first time, let me say that me and Dr. Abdullah, we were personal friends. And so I was the first one who told my own brother, who was the resistance leader, to ask my brother to make Dr. Abdullah as the spokesman in the foreign ministry, and then later as deputy foreign minister, a long time ago. So I've been promoting him. Now, in 2008, the first time we met for that 2009 election, it was in Paris. Then I asked Dr. Abdullah, would you stand as a candidate? He said, no, I can't do that when so many leaders in Afghanistan. I said, if you stand as a candidate, we can help. Then I went to Afghanistan. I formed a 15-member strong delegation and convinced Rabbani, convinced the United Front, convinced everybody, and he stood as the candidate. So he took the 2% of the vote. Well, let me say the first one who nominated, maybe one of the first who nominated Karzai as the president of interim government, that was Abdullah. Now, he was in Uzbekistan. He met Ambassador Dobbins, and he met Khalilzad. When I was in Bonn, Abdullah called me, and he said, we better get Karzai to be there. I said, do you know him? He said, yeah, he's a good man. I did not ask him, who told you he's a good man? But based on his instruction, his talking, I said, okay, let's see what happens. I did not know that there was some others who told Dr. Abdullah. But then later on, 2004, there was a problem. Later on, the problem got bigger. So they're completely two different ways now. Our opposition, the government.
Let me wrap this up with a couple administrative things. First off, coffee and dessert are coming around. There's a tradition that after these events, we retire upstairs to the cigar bar for a little after-dinner drink, and you are welcome, of course, as is any of your entourage. But I know it's getting late, and your body clock is a little off. Every time I go to Afghanistan, I'm head over. I don't know which way I'm coming. A couple clarifications on your national unity and the agenda. Just to make it clear to everyone here, you've held meetings around the country, most recently in Herat. Next week you'll be in Kandahar. The plan is that you will be in Kabul in December.
Yes.
date, specific date to be determined.
Yes,
And that would be the largest gathering,
the largest.
the largest gathering. You have also written this all out in a 100-page
Yes.
book. It has not yet been completely translated in English, but it is about to be.
Yes.
Is that correct? So,
Yes.
so we can get that.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. This, very inspiring, not as pessimistic as the American media portray. I'm really proud of the fact that you continue to have a vision and you're committed to that vision. Not every day. Good news does not come out of Afghanistan every day, as we've seen. But thank you for coming here and sharing your thoughts with us. And have a few minutes if they have some follow-ups with you personally while we get coffee or whatever. But again, thank you very much. Please join us.